Smart meters are fast becoming the most controversial things in our house.
They can pressure as long as they like, and I just say go jump in the lake.
The government says they will save us money.
It's expected to save Britain about £6 billion by 2034.
But to many people, they're a source of confusion.
Why have I got this, and what's the point of it?
And suspicion.
This is just a device. Who knows what it's doing?
And some people think there's something downright funny going on.
There is a real problem with conspiracy theories in Britain at the moment.
But as stories of meters going dumb,
that means that probably about 2/3 of the meters that have been installed are going to need an upgrade.
and hidden costs start to surface,
even if you don't have a smart meter, you're still paying for them to be rolled out.
could it be that there's a few things that the energy companies aren't telling us?
A bit like HS2, it was completely missold to us.
Join us as we tell you about 13 things.
There is a Which survey that stated that a quarter of people have trouble with their smart meters.
Just read your Gasman!
Those of us of a certain vintage will remember the full-blown recession of 1990 and the comedy sketch from Bottom, where Richie and Eddie are anxious about a visit from the meter reader.
Right, I'll just have a look at your meter, if I may. Ah, yes, here's a little fella.
Oh, you don't want to look at that, mate. It's very boring. I had a look at it once and fell into a coma.
Actually, that's where you're wrong. Because the ones on this street are particularly interesting.
Oh, really? Why's that then?
Well, there's been a complaint from someone in this street that they're paying too much for their gas. We've got to check all the meters in this street and make sure everything's okay.
The sketch is attempting to reflect the times and draws humour from fears many of us faced back then. Sky-high energy bills and a visit from the gas man. And not a lot has changed since. Oh. Apart from we don't have meter readers anymore. We have the controversial smart meter.
I refuse a smart meter because smart meters are entirely for the benefit of the energy company. I don't get anything out of it. They say, oh yeah, you can save money from your energy bills. Well, no, there's absolutely zero guarantee that I save money with a smart meter.
We're going to tell you 13 things energy suppliers and the government don't want you to know about smart meters. Starting with, they may not actually save you money. To better understand, investigative journalist Alexis Conran takes us back to the beginning.
Back in 2011, the government had an ambitious plan. They wanted every single home and small business in the country to have a smart meter by 2019.
They promised to end estimated bills and save households money. But what does it mean for the energy suppliers?
Fundamentally, in a very immediate and practical sense, it means we get the customer's consumption data without having to send somebody out to read the meter. That's an immediate benefit for us, but hopefully also an immediate benefit for the customer that isn't having to submit a meter read, going into the garage or crawl under the stairs.
The purpose of a smart meter is no different to a traditional one, in that it measures how much gas and electricity you use. So what makes it smart?
It basically sends out a signal which connects to a central hub.
That means that they have an up-to-date record of how much electricity you're using. That also means that you can have a little box, an in-house display unit.
Every customer that gets a smart meter is given the option of having an in-home display.
You can see that energy usage in real time without having to go outside. You can see how much you're spending. You can see a prediction of the day.
So how much are we saving by not paying the meter reader anymore, or the people in the call centre taking readings over the phone?
The government's most recent cost-benefit analysis of the smart metering programme, it's expected to save Britain about £6 billion by 2034.
All sounds straightforward, right? Wrong.
The official estimates are that we will save £250 thanks to smart meters. But that's not £250 a year, that's £250 between 2013 and 2034. That works out at less than 12 quid a year. And will we actually see that 12 quid knocked off our energy bills? Will we buffalo? And realistically, when ever has something been cheaper to run and the consumer has seen the benefit rather than the shareholders of the company and the people running the company? I will eat my hat if by 2034 my energy bill is £12 cheaper than it was this year. It's not going to be.
So they may not save us money, and they cost loads to install.
Yes, it does save people having to do the meter readings, but it's a huge amount of energy and expense to get them set up. So it's one of those things that I think people feel a little bit confused by.
Smart meters are not free. Installation of an electricity gas smart meter along with the communications costs around about £250 per household. A user doesn't see the individual costs, but those costs and the inefficiencies from the fact it's being done badly are all there helping to push up the cost of buying energy.
But despite all this, the government really wants you to get one.
I got forced into having a smart meter, didn't we all? Get harassed by telephone calls. Have you considered a smart meter? Basically, for a couple of years, if you had a missed call off an unknown number, it'd probably be your energy supplier trying to convert you into using a smart meter. And you know, it does involve an engineer to come over to your house and fix it for a couple of hours. It's not something that can be done remotely or particularly easily.
Ever wondered why you get pushy phone calls and letters saying you should get a smart meter? Well, the rollout of smart meters started way back in 2011, with a target of having every home fitted with one by 2019. That was later pushed back to 2022.
They had very tough targets to meet in 2022, and not all the energy companies did. In fact, a number of energy companies missed them by quite some way.
And what happens if they don't reach those targets?
Energy suppliers, they basically have got targets to reach, and the government are setting these targets, and if they're not reaching these targets, they're getting fines.
We actually imposed fines on those energy companies, totaling £10.8 million, just because we want to give a really clear signal and a strong incentive for them to up their game on this.
As it stands, a little over 50% have smart meters, so they moved the goalposts.
Now the government have got a new target. By the end of 2025, they want 80% of homes and 73% of businesses to have a smart meter.
So what I would say about the rollout is that it's a massively complex, major infrastructure upgrade. There are now 33 million smart meters in homes across Britain from a standing start, and that's without mandating those pieces of equipment. So a lot of smart meters are being fitted.
Even with the targets, there's a lot that aren't being fitted. Over 40% of households don't have a smart meter. They might be convenient and supposedly cheaper, but the person in the street doesn't seem to want them.
I just read the meter. I've always read the meter. I send it in, they send a bill, everybody's happy, and they annoy me every month by saying, "Why did you have a smart meter?" And I ignore it and delete it.
I keep getting advertisements about smart meters. And, you know, why don't you get a smart meter? Get a smart meter.
If I was offered a smart meter today, I wouldn't take one. Definitely not, no.
I don't see why I need to change it, to be honest. It works perfectly fine for the last 15, 20 years. I'm happy with it. Why should I change it?
They can pressure everyone if they like, and I just say, go jump in the lake. I'm a citizen, I pay my bills. You know, they want an easy life, I want an easy life, so, you know, go find somebody else.
As the old adage goes, you can lead a horse to water, but if you pressure people to have a smart meter, you can go jump in a lake. Oh, and you don't actually have to get one.
If people really don't want smart meters, they can say that. But I think it's fair that an energy company should reach out to consumers, explain the benefits, and then it's up to the consumer to make that choice.
As it stands, you don't have to get a smart meter unless your previous meter needs to be replaced. For example, it's broken, it's dangerous. What you don't want is energy companies hurrying people along who don't want to be rushed. This needs to be properly communicated with people, that people don't think that they're being, forced on this against their will.
They feel they're being sort of badgered by their energy company, being asked too many times, and it's actually putting them off.
Getting a smart meter is entirely optional. I think what I'd say is that the vast majority of people who have a smart meter love their smart meter or find it very, very useful for them.
It might be entirely optional, but what they don't tell you is you're still paying for a smart meter even if you don't have one. A standing charge is added to your gas and electricity bills by your supplier as a fixed daily amount that you have to pay, no matter how much energy you use. It's like the line rental you pay for your landline, but for your energy. Our reporter, Alexis Conran, is going to serve up the facts.
Let's talk about the standing charge, which is something that can be quite a contentious issue. Now, this is a charge that goes on everybody's bills. It's about £300 a year. It's for your gas and your electricity, and it covers sort of, if you like, running costs for the energy companies. And now this is now coming under review because Ofgem are trying to figure out whether that's actually fair. So someone who hardly uses any energy will pay the same standing charge as someone who uses a lot of energy.
We understand there is a lot of concern about the level of standing charges. So particularly at a time of high energy costs, people are trying to reduce their energy bills by reducing their consumption, but the standing charge element is fixed and can't be reduced. So we understand that's a serious area of concern. It's a difficult issue. As with most things, if you change the way those costs are recovered, there will be some winners and some losers.
And as far as the government is concerned, if you don't have a smart meter, you're a loser.
But let's have a look at what you're paying. So think of it as a pie, like this one here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and slice it down the middle because it's quite easy to figure out what's what. So one side, let's say this side, this now takes care of all network costs, how much the power grid costs to maintain, the pipes, everything to get that energy to your home. Those are the costs on this side of the pie. You also have government policies that come out of that standing charge. So the Warmer Home Initiative, all the help that we give to people who can't afford their bills, that's also on this side of the pie. And a tiny sliver is the profits that are included for the energy companies, and they come up to about 2%. Well, maybe that's about 2%. That's probably a little bit more, but quite small part of this standing charge. Now, on this size of the pie, it's a little bit easier because the big chunk of it is operating costs. That's IT for the companies, the billing processes, the paying everybody, the rental that you pay for your meter. Remember, whether you have a smart meter or an old meter, you're still paying rental to have that meter. But also what's included is what we all pay for the rollout of the smart meter. How much is that? Well, it's just over 5%. So there we go. I'm going to give you a little slice there. I know this is very unscientific, but it's just to give you an idea. So from your big standing charge, you are actually paying about £15.50 a year. So remember, even if you don't have a smart meter, you're still paying for them to be rolled out. So maybe you just, I don't know, might as well make use of them.
Just over half of homes have smart meters and do make use of them. But we find out that could be to their detriment.
I must admit, when it was first fitted, it just became quite an obsession, and I did find you've become quite anxious and quite stressed about how much you're using.
We're going to tell you 13 things energy suppliers and the government don't want you to know about smart meters. Earlier, we learned that pushy energy suppliers are set targets by the government and are fined if they don't meet them. Also, we pay for the smart meter rollout even if we don't have one. But one thing they would like you to know is they can save you money, and there are people that love them, like Dylan.
I was really hesitant to get a smart meter. I did not want Big Brother to know when I was cooking my chips or washing my bits. Getting a smart meter all came down to our electric car. Our energy usage has always been high, and when we got the electric car, it went even higher. And so I wanted to look at ways that we could cut down costs and reduce our outgoings every month. And a smart meter has allowed that. So I was quite nerdy when I got the app. You can download your data, and I did. And I wanted to see how much money I was saving. They give a special rate between 11:30 at night and 5:30 in the morning, where the rate drops to 7.5 pence per kilowatt, which is a huge saving. So we were doing all of our Meteor washing or dishwasher in the evening, and that was saving a lot of money compared to what we were paying before.
Who would have thought washing your pants at night was the answer? But these savings are certainly not to be sniffed at. And you don't have to air your dirty laundry in public either.
So here, I've got my tumble dryer, and I can delay the start, and I can choose a different time. So I'll select in the evening when electricity is cheaper. And by doing this, I can save nearly 60 pence an hour. So it's a real good saving for me to do it like this. So this is our in-house display. Our meter is just over there. And because we've got really thick walls, it needs to be near. So this is the best place in the house for us. I can flick through and see our energy usage. We use quite a lot because we've got an electric car and some high using appliances, but we're going to see a massive drop in this. So it was 175, 144, and this is per week, 140. And then this week coming up now, we're going to see a massive drop where it probably goes down to about 40, 50 pounds. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing next week's reading.
Hands up, who knows how energy is calculated? Nope, me neither. So here goes nothing. Energy is charged on how many kilowatts we use per hour. For example, an average kettle uses 3 kilowatts an hour, so that would cost roughly 87p. But of course, no one boils their kettle for an hour, so the price of a 300ml mug of tea is 1 pence. Bargain. The average overnight charge on your phone is 0.4 pence. Bargain. And it's roughly 6 pence to watch a 2-hour film on a 55-inch LED TV. Another bargain. And what a smart meter does is tell your energy supplier when the energy is used and offer cheaper rates at off-peak times. So, with savings of hundreds of pounds, it's clear to see why Dylan is pleased with his smart meter. And he's not the only one.
It's just made life a lot easier, and it's just one less thing that I have to think about and worry about.
It has enabled us to make quite a few small changes that have made a big difference.
It's been absolutely amazing for us. Saved us a lot of money. Best decision, energy-wise, we've ever made.
So they can save you money, and people do love them. But in a recent parliamentary report, it was highlighted that they are benefiting wealthier consumers more than others, because they are more able to purchase replacement appliances, such as washing machines. A key component for saving money for people with smart meters is the in-home display. And self-confessed nerd Dylan looks at his IHD a lot. Which leads us on to the next thing they don't want you to know about. Smart meters could stress you out. In a recent survey, a fifth said they don't like their meter because it makes them worry more about their energy usage.
I usually turn it towards the wall because I don't want to see how much money I'm clocking up over the course of the week.
And a study carried out at the beginning of the rollout, when energy prices were much lower, found there was a link between the smart meter and stress. That stress became heightened when the consumer felt their habits couldn't make any more energy-efficient savings. We've sent Alexis to meet up with award-winning business psychologist Lee Chambers, who does know a thing or two about smart meter obsession.
Let's talk a little bit about what these smart meters are doing to our brains and our characters, particularly the little display on a counter. I can't stop looking at it.
Yeah, so I mean, when they first arrive and they have access to this data, which we've not had before, it's quite novel.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. It's something to track, something to be able to actually see and feel slightly empowered to be able to make better decisions and choices. Quite often they've been kind of brought into it through the idea that can actually save money and, you know, create more financial protection for themselves by utilising that. So it does become quite attractive, and it turns the mystery of units into something that we can actually look at as currency and really be able to translate that. So it actually feels quite empowering.
Lee has a fair point. The kilowatt hour is confusing. But is there a line, and are we in danger of crossing it?
They're constantly sort of looking, how much energy am I using? I'm outside the house, you know, is there something on, you know? Do they become a bit sort of obsessive compulsive, or can we not go that far?
I can say that for some individuals, they have lesser resistance to actually the continued compulsive behaviour of checking. And obviously, you know, that can become something that for some individuals, it becomes like a bit of a game, but a game that actually starts to struggle to win.
So Lee likens it to a game. Only this is real life. We are player one, and there are no extra lives available.
So it can definitely promote unhealthy behaviours.
Right.
And a continual ability to access that information. Obviously for those that you can use for an app, you might have people checking that as the first thing they check in the morning to see how much energy they've used overnight, to see if anything they've changed has happened, or, you know, and it again, it's something that has come into our world, an ability to actually check things that previously, you know, the meter reader came and read it. We knew when we got our bill through the post. Now it's right there in our hand.
So is there a happy medium, and how do we get there?
So there's definitely a happy medium. Obviously, if you go too far over the other side, it actually starts to make people feel powerless.
Right.
Like there's nothing else I can physically do. Obviously then we might make choices which are actually detrimental to the health. It might add to pre-existing financial stress. And those same smart meters can sometimes trigger people's previous challenges with energy debts or other situations they've had in their lifetime.
Don't let it become your boss.
Yes, so try and continue to be the master of the benefits of that technology.
No boss level in this game then. And in the interest of balance, here's SmartGB with some words of wisdom.
If you want to have it running in the background the whole time, you can do that. If you want to just be looking at it every once a week or once a month, you can do that too. When we've asked people about their IHDs, most people find them incredibly useful. More than 8 in 10 people find their IHD useful, and people on a prepaid smart meter find them even more useful than that.
It all sounds like a bed of roses if you have a smart meter, but not so much if you don't, because if you don't get one, you may not be able to get the cheapest tariffs.
So, thank you both for joining me.
Our reporter Alexis was contacted by mother and daughter Susan and Lucinda. Lucinda has joined the club, but Susan hasn't.
I want to start with Susan. You don't have a smart meter. Were you ever offered one?
Yes, the supplier I had before this one kept sending me texts and emails asking me to have one. In fact, I felt as though I was being bullied to have one. And when it came to renewing my contract, the contract I wanted to go on with that supplier, I could only have it if I had a smart meter installed.
Like many Brits, Susan is being penalised for not having a smart meter. Although the energy suppliers would say the tariffs reward you for having a smart meter rather than a penalty for not having one. It might make those of us who don't want one pressured into doing so.
There's also some people who've told stories of the fact that they think they're getting this brilliant tariff and they haven't quite understood that in the small print it says, oh, you can only get this if you also install a smart meter. So suddenly they realise that, well, if they want that price, then they're going to have to accept a smart meter into their home.
But Susan is standing her ground for now and being careful with how she uses her energy.
I only have the central heating on if I have the family come to stay.
Right.
I'm sort of put off by some of these horror stories, and there is a Which survey that stated that a quarter of people have trouble with their smart meters.
Yeah.
And even Lucinda, who has a smart meter, is suffering from the kind of issues Lee Chambers told us about earlier.
I must admit, when it was first fitted, it just became quite an obsession, the focus point that I found myself, all of the time, just constantly checking. And I did find, you become quite anxious and quite stressed about how much you're using.
So has all the obsession and checking paid off?
Do you think it's helped you save money?
I don't know. I mean, we are very energy conscious anyway, so I do wonder whether we would be, the way in which we conduct ourselves is the way we would anyway, regardless of having a meter installed. You sort of get into this cycle of depression thinking, well, we are doing so much to save so much energy. It's not as if I'm not sat here sort of boiling a hot house or anything. We're making cutbacks, yet you still feel like you're spending so much.
It seems even with the smart meter, some people feel helpless, but worst is yet to come.
Smart meters will no longer be so smart. They will become dumb.
We've sent investigative journalist Alexis Conran on a journey to discover 13 things the government and the energy suppliers don't want us to know. As it stands, almost 34 million smart meters have been fitted, but nearly 4 million of those are dumb. That's up from a previous estimate of 2.7 million. So it seems matters are only getting worse. And perhaps we've only scratched the surface as to why people don't want one.
The first generation of smart meters, the SMETS ones, if you changed supplier, your in-house display unit would stop working and a lot of the smart features would stop working. They became dumb.
The vast majority of smart meters are working properly, but there are some that aren't, and sometimes that's a legacy of the first generation of smart meters that went in.
Over 10% are operating in dumb mode for differing technical issues, but more could follow suit.
The problem with smart meters is it's taken so long to roll this scheme out that the first generation of smart meters are going to stop working because they send their data back to the energy companies, not through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, but through the 2G and the 3G phone network. The problem is that at some point the 2G and the 3G phone network are going to be turned off. And that means that the smart meters will no longer be so smart. They will become dumb.
2G is set to be switched off in 2033. But the data communications company is working with the government to upgrade devices. And any first-generation meters not upgraded will need to be physically replaced.
That means that probably about 2/3 of the meters that have been installed are going to need an upgrade in order to connect at the point that 2G gets turned off. The problem is that that means somebody has to come in, you need an engineer to visit and make that change, and that adds additional cost. Typically you're looking at about £70 or £80 for somebody to do each visit, as well as the cost of the new communications unit that fits on the top. And this was known at the beginning, but it's been a process where nobody's really looked very far forward in terms of the design or the way that this is done.
The cost will of course eat into the £250 saving we were meant to make over the next 10 years.
Another factor that might influence customers away from smart meters, especially if they've seen social media and people having problems and complaining, is that they might not believe them to be entirely accurate. So obviously when you've got the analog meters and you can see the dials turning around and around, that feels a lot more tangible and touchable. This is just a device. Who knows what it's doing?
Don't get one. Ignore the government and ignore whatever is put out on the news.
Smart meters also gather personal data, and the energy companies sell this or pass it on to other companies.
This is the beginning of the control and conquering us. They're going to see how far they can take this now. They are putting themselves firmly in positions for authority.
There is a real problem with conspiracy theories in Britain at the moment, and people thinking increasingly crazy things. And think, for instance, that smart meters are going to, spy on us and they're going to zap our brains. They're not. But of course, as with all great conspiracy theories, there is a grain of truth. And with all great conspiracy theories, they are fueled by those people in authorities not being completely transparent with us.
One grain of truth might be that they could cost you more, which has been a real issue for the energy suppliers. In 2017, social media was awash with claims that smart meters, or at least the in-home display, were giving astronomically inaccurate readings. The issues only seemed to be affecting customers from SSE. They launched an investigation and, in a statement, told their customers no one will be charged the extra amounts resulting from errors with the smart meters. But another smart meter imprecision in 2023 blew up on social media. This time it was EDF, and it hit the likes of broadcaster Grayson Perry and many others. EDF told us customers do not need to worry. These are not related to a wider issue. Any large increases in customers' direct debits are verified through a human check, and in almost all such cases, system errors are rectified and prevented without customers being impacted. But it seems like the tip of the iceberg. Alexis is joined by Gemma, a former employee of E.ON, and who now runs her own energy support group on Facebook. They've been sent a video from someone who probably speaks for a lot of energy customers.
People report things like increasing bills, which concerns me very, very much, given that the cost of gas and electric at the moment is so high. I've heard lots of reports of connectivity issues, data not being read right. So why would you want to change something if it's not broken? I'll just stick with what I've got. Thank you for listening.
Inaccurate bills are certainly a big problem in today's climate, although there may be another reason for increased bills, and that's because they are no longer estimated.
People haven't had a smart meter, they haven't been given meter readings, they've had a catch-up bill. You get your smart meter installed and it starts recording accurately. It starts telling you what you are using. You then start to get accurate bills.
So what happens if your smart meter is dumb and you need it fixing? You might think the energy suppliers will be rushing to your aid. Wrong. You go to the back of the queue. It's tough on even the most steadfast of smart meter supporters who want them fixed, such as Charlene.
Why do you think they're dragging their feet? I mean, they're trying to get everybody to install a smart meter. Why are they not sorting you out? I mean, you're a fan of the smart meter.
Yeah, I don't believe they're intentionally not doing it. I think that they're more concerned with meeting government targets for installing new meters.
Right.
Because if they meet the target of installing, they don't get fined. But I don't know what's in their literature about them keeping working once they're in.
Charlene's experience just adds to the horror stories that are putting some people off. But in a recent survey, the chief concern for consumers who don't want to get one is privacy. The energy suppliers and the government would like you to think your privacy is protected. But Mariano, from the Open Rights Group, would beg to differ. He works with the UK-based organisation to protect our rights to privacy.
All that a smart meter can send is how much energy you've used. It can't send, for example, Mariano has just switched on his kettle, or Mariano has just switched on his washing machine.
The energy patterns are going to be revealing this sort of information because different appliances have very different energy usages.
Okay.
And therefore, by reading those patterns, somebody can understand whether you're using the microwave, whether you're turning on the light, whether you're turning on the TV.
Do we have any evidence of that actually happening?
So we do have a lot of evidence in terms of data brokers doing this work, and we do have some evidence of smart meter being fed into this ecosystem, which is the video.
This video you're going to show me?
That you're gonna
should we have a look?
Sure.
All right. Okay.
We are Onzo. We take energy consumption data from smart meters and sensors. We analyze it using our patented algorithms and build a highly personalized profile for each and every utility customer. We even tag the appliances that we see being used in the home. We then use this characterized profile to monetize their customer data by providing a direct link to appropriate third-party organizations based on the customer's identified character. So, from a very thin stream...
The business's focus was changed before reforms in 2018 of GDPR regulations, and the video was removed. Onzo says it never sells data to or shares data with third parties. But their video showed that energy suppliers might be able to tell what you're doing. Perhaps even the greatest skeptic wasn't expecting that. Are we naive to think smart meters can't identify which appliance is being used?
When I was working with Onzo, our interest was how do we help people understand data? So this was entirely an opt-in. If you just take a stream of data back from a smart meter, you can start to see what appliances in your home are actually using the energy. Now from that, you can start to work out quite a lot about the people that live in the home. Certainly for elderly people that live at home, you can see if their pattern of making tea changes during the day, which may well tie into something like a urinary tract infection, which affects memory. So there's lots of fascinating things you can do with data once you've got access to it.
The information we get is half-hourly consumption data from the customer. That data doesn't go directly to us, so it goes from the customer's meter over a secure communications network to a central industry hub, and then it goes to us as the appointed supplier for that customer.
And it's not just the energy supplier harvesting data. In October of 2022, it was announced that the government was going to collect data from energy meters to help identify fraud. The fear is that it will affect those with smart meters more because it is able to collect data in greater detail.
The energy suppliers have very, very little knowledge of data. They use minimum amounts of data most of the time. Even though they have all of the data from smart metering, most of our billing just tells us how much we've used over a 3-month period. They really do not understand the value and benefit of a lot of the data they have access to.
They might not understand now, but who knows what the future holds. In the meantime, we don't even need one to save us money.
Smart meters don't automatically save you money or energy.
So far, we've told you 12 things that the energy companies and the government don't want you to know about smart meters. What they do tell us is that smart meters will save us money, but that saving is based on things such as energy suppliers not using meter readers anymore or call centers. It's not necessarily passed on to us, the consumer.
So smart meters don't automatically save you money or energy. They're just a tool to give you insight into how your house uses energy and gas. So you have to be the sort of intelligent person to interpret that data and to work out how you could go about making life a little bit cheaper for yourself.
Which leads us on to the 13th and final thing they don't want you to know. And that is, you don't actually need a smart meter to save yourself money on your energy bills.
If you're someone who's really engaged already and doing all of those things, you probably wouldn't see so much of a saving.
It doesn't really do anything. It's just one less thing that you have to do when it comes to giving readings. But when it actually comes to making your house more efficient, well, that requires you to do a bit of research.
And we've done that research for you, or at least Mrs. Mummypenny has. She knows a thing or two about saving money, and she has your back with some energy-saving tips.
So the first tip is about your thermostat, which we often have set too high. You might have it set at 23, 24 degrees. Turn it down just by 1 degree. It will make a huge difference to your energy bills. So my second energy saving tip is about your boiler. have a look at what the temperature is set at. It should be no higher than 60 degrees, but often they're set at a standard of around 70. Pop it down to 60 and save loads of money on your energy bill. But don't put it any lower than 60 because that temperature kills the bugs that are in the water system. The time you spend in your shower is going to make a difference to how much energy you're using. So get a shower timer and maybe think about showering for 4 minutes rather than 6 minutes. And also have more showers rather than baths. Baths use up so much more hot water and so much more energy.
Most of us will use our showers most days throughout the year, but we could be using our kitchen up to a couple of times a day.
So a big user of energy in the kitchen is the oven. So what I recommend with this is to switch to an air fryer. So an oven uses a lot more energy and it takes about double the time to cook things. So switch to the air fryer and you're going to save yourself time and about half as much energy. So my big tip about energy saving is to keep yourself warm rather than the house. So I've got an electric blanket here, which they cost a couple of pence per hour to run. So think about doing that rather than having all your radiators on. Little handheld device, which I'm going to put on for an hour to keep me warm. So there's no need to put the heating on in your house when you can keep yourself warm. So another great energy saving tip is about how you dry your clothes in the house. So a lot of us have tumble dryers, but that's one of the greediest appliances for using energy and cost. So invest instead in a heated clothes area. So this one is costing around 3p an hour to use, much, much cheaper than the tumble dryer. So if you have radiators in rooms that aren't being used, make sure they're switched off. So it's really important for the efficiency of the radiator, the air circulating around it. You can get a tool from an online retailer, it's about £2. These are radiators, follow an online tutorial and you'll make your radiators work properly. So it's really important to not leave things plugged in at the wall and not things left on standby either. So things like phone chargers and laptop chargers and extension leads, if they're left switched on, they will still be using energy, even though a phone's not plugged into it. Things like your TV at night time and a toaster, just make sure they're switched off at the wall and save yourself a little bit extra on your energy bill.
The fact of the matter is, sooner or later, we are going to have to resign ourselves to having a smart meter.
We know that over time, what's going to happen is that traditional meters, as we call them, will stop being made, and what that will mean is that when your current meter comes to the end of its lifetime, it will need to be replaced, and that will probably be with a smart meter.
But for now, we have a choice.
I don't have a problem with sending my data back to the energy companies in order for my bills to be more accurate. But a bit like HS2, it was completely missold to us. We've been promised it's going to make our bills lower. It is not going to make our bills lower. It's just going to make the whole system a little bit more efficient, but it's also going to make it a bit more expensive. And if only the government had been honest with us, more people would have signed up to the whole idea. And they're surprised somehow that a small and actually growing body of consumers are deeply suspicious about smart meters, because they haven't been told the full truth.
In a parliamentary report, it was concluded that the rollout was far too slow and the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero hasn't done enough to ensure consumers are convinced of their benefits.
I knew nothing about them, and I think that's part of the problem. There will be issues with smart meters, there will be problems, just like there is with everything that we use technology-wise. Your mobile phone, your laptop, your tablet. Think of how many issues you've had with those. You don't just throw them in the bin and go, well, that technology doesn't work. There's going to be issues with everything that we use. Finally, the truth is that the majority of people who have smart meters have used them in order to save a lot of money. Others are just using them to just get better and more accurate bills. But at the end of the day, you can make your mind up.
Onzo told us the video is referring to energy disaggregation. It takes smart meter data shared by a household and splits it into different categories: lighting, heating, cooking, washing and drying, etc. Smart meter data in Britain can only be accessed with the household's specific consent and cannot be sold to anyone without their express permission. EDF told us, we may share anonymised consumption data with partners, but only where customers have given EDF their consent.
What will two footy-mad families discover on the other side of the wealth divide? Find out in new Rich House, Poor House, Sunday at 9. And tonight, James is taking a funny turn, so what's going on in the Dales? Stay there for All Creatures Great and Small, new next.